you know, just, just take me. Just take me now. Like, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I hope you can hear me now. Ay. We have sound. But I said hello, Derek. Hello, QWERTY. Okay, so what I was saying was that I was getting ready for stream, right? I was getting the setup ready, but then I got like a call back from my doctor. So I'm like, oh, okay, I have to take this. And it's just a lot of stuff going on, and I'm like, So I had to take it, and then I had to figure some stuff out, and then it was like, oh, it's time. And then I'm like, sorry, guys, I gotta set up real quick. I'm so sorry. Like, I swear my reedy strings are like cursed, because every time I have it like uh ready or on my schedule, something always happens. Something always happens. Like, I swear. Like 2 weeks ago, I had it initially um set up to read, and then I got sick. And then last week, I got too tired from babysitting, and I'm like, no, we have to do it this week. We have to do it this week. Ugh, I'm so sorry, everybody. But I'm making up for it for using my chibi model today. Oh, ho, 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 so cute, so cute. Let me just fix something real quick, and then we will get ready to start. Oh, whoa! The heck? It's not supposed to show. What the heck? Alright. Guess I could use a cough drop first. It's not showing me winking. What the heck? But I hope everyone's having a very good day. It's finally Friday. Like holy moly. I need a break. Good thing I got nothing planned this weekend. But it is raining all day. It's like cozy weather. Like, I don't want to do anything. Oh yeah, and I got back from a baby shower. So it's like rush, rush, rush everywhere. Ugh. Cough drop, come on. Work with me. Alright. We're going to read the next 4 chapters of A Daughter of the Samurai by Etsu Inagaki Sugimoto. So this was written by Etsu herself. What do you call those? Those are autobiographies, right? The one where they wrote about their own life. So here we go. Reading chapter 21 and 22. Let's see. From last time when we left off, Etsu got married. Like, she moved from Japan to America. And she got married. She's liking her mother-in-law. Everything's going well. Oh, and I think she switched religion. She used to be like Buddhist or Shintoism, and then she switched over to Christianity. And we learned a little bit about why she made that decision. Alright, here we go. Chapter 21, New Experiences. Cough drop, work with me. As the weeks and the months have drifted by, unconsciously, in my mind, the present had been linking itself more and more closely with the past. For I had been learning more clearly each day that America was very like Japan. Thus, as time passed, the new surroundings melted into old memories, and I began to feel that my life had been almost an unbroken continuation from childhood until now. Beneath the chimes of the church bells calling, do not forget to thank for your gifts you every day enjoy. I could hear the mellow boom of the temple gong. Protection for all is offered here. Safety is within. The children who, with their burden of books, fill the streets with laughter and shouts at 8:30 a.m. made the same picture to me as our crowds of boys in uniform and girls in pleated skirts and shining black hair, who at 7:30 a.m. clattered along on wooden clogs, carrying their books neatly wrapped in squares of patterned chalie. You know what I forgot to put in this setup? My book. I'm just reading from thin air. Valentine's Day, with its lacy senses of bowing nights and burning hearts, all twined about with ropes of rosebuds, and with sweet thoughts expressed in glowing, endearing words, was our weaving festival, when swaying bamboos were decorated with festoons of gay ashes and scarfs, and hung with glittering poem prayers for sunshine. That's the herdsman and his weaver wife might meet that day on the misty banks of the Heveling River, which Americans call the Milky Way. Decoration Day, with its soldiers of two wars, with its patriotic speeches and its graves with tiny flags and scattered blossoms, was our Shokonsha memorial to our soldier dead, when all day long hundreds marched through the great stone arc to bow with softly clapping hands, then march away to make room for hundreds more. The 4th of July, with its fluttering flags, with snapping crackers, with beating drums, and its whirling, shooting rockets in the sky, was our holiday on which the flag of Japan waved beneath crossed cherry branches in honor of the coming to the throne. 25 countries ago, 25 centuries ago, of our first emperor, our large bearded man in loose garments, tied at wrist and ankle with twisted vines, and wearing a long swinging necklace of sickle-shaped gems, which is today one of the 3 treasures of the throne. You are reading the inscriptions of the tea leaves in the cup. Yes. Halloween, with its grotesque lanterns, its witches, and many jokes, was the harvest festival of Japan, when pumpkins were skillfully scrapped into lovely pictures of shady gardens with lanterns and flowers, when ghost games were played and pumpkins piled at the gates of round-faced maidens, and when orchards of the stinging man were raided and their trophies land on graves for the poor to find. Thanksgiving, the homecoming day, with its turkey and pie and jolly good cheer, was our anniversary, when married sons and daughters with their children gathered for a feast of red rice and whole fish, gossiping happily while they ate, and with the shrine doors opened wide and the spirits of kindly ancestors watching over all. Christmas, with its gay streets and merry hurrying bundle-laden crowds, with its sparkling tree and many gifts, with its holy memories of a shining star and a mother with her babe, was something like our 7 days of New Year rejoicing, but with a difference. The difference between the soft organ tones of an old melody and the careless lisping song of a happy child. At New Year's time, above every doorway in our crowded streets was stretched a rope of ragged rice straw, with pine trees growing on either side, and the air resounded with children's laughter, and the twinkle of tiny hidden bells and running shoes, with the gay tap-tap of flying shuttlecocks, and the cheerful greetings of bowing friends. In every home were thick, rounded cakes of mochi. Every babe had another birthday, every maiden had a new sash, and poetry cards were played by boys and girls together. Oh, it was gay in Japan at New Year's time. There was no thought of solemnity anywhere, for the chrysalis of the past was broken. The butterfly had burst forth, and the world had begun again. My first Christmas day in America was a disappointment. We were all invited by a lady friend to attend Christmas services and afterward to go home with her to dinner and to see her tree. She had children, and I had pictured the scene as being gay, pretty, and pleasant, but with an undercurrent of dignity and reverence. I had idealized too much the wide influence of the symbolism of the day, and everything seemed such a strange combination of the spiritual and material that I was lost. The star and the tree and the thought of unselfish giving were beautiful, but little was said of either, except in church, and just beneath the star were festoons of popcorn and cranberries, things we eat. Indeed, except for the gaiety of giving and receiving gifts, most things, especially belonging to the day, seem to be only the serving of certain kinds of food, and very an artistic and peculiar custom of hanging in prominent place the garments of the lowest part of the body for the purpose of holding gifts of toys and jewelry, or even candy and fruit. That was a custom difficult for Japanese to understand. That evening, Mother and I went over to call on Miss Helen, and there, in her big, quiet parlor, spreading over a large snowy cloth on the floor, stood her tree. Large and pine-scented, sparkling with lights and colored swinging ornaments. It was wonderful. The tree, though so big and beautiful, reminded me as an Asian or as an American skyscraper may remind one of a tiny temple pagoda, of the fairy-like branch of our cocoon festival from which swing and float, swinging with the lightest breath, myriads of fairy-like sugar-blown replicas of every delicate symbol of the day. Miss Helen's father and mother were there, and we talked of the holidays of America and of Japan. Then a little niece and a neighbor's child sang Christmas carols, and my heart was full of joy, for I felt that my ideal Christmas had really come. The morning after Christmas, we had our first snow, a flying mist of dry, feathery flakes that was no more like the heavy fall of Echiko's damp, solid cloths than fluffy silk floss is like weighing cotton batting. All day long it fell, grew thicker and towards nightfall, and when we wakened the next morning, the world was white. Just as the curve where our driveway turned into the broad public road stood the coachman's cottage. He had 3 children, and they asked Mother if they might make a snowman on our back lawn. Mother gave her consent, and then the most interesting things happened. The children rolled a big ball, then piled onto another, and on top of that, a small one. Then, with much pushing and patting of red-smitten hands, they formed rude features, and with shiny bits of hard coal, gave the image of a pair of bright eyes, and a row of buttons down the front. An odd hat of their father's and a pipe from somewhere completed their work. And there stood a clumsy, shapeless image that reminded me of Daruma-sama, the Indian saint whose devotions cost him his feet. I had never expected to see a Buddhist saint in America, but I greeted the likeness with merriment and entertained the children by telling them the story of the cheerful rice pounder who threw away his pestle to become the founder of the new religion, and who asked that his image be not honored with reverential bows, but be made into amusing toys that children's hands would use and children's hearts enjoy. Later on, I saw Daruma-sama at other places than our snowy lawn. To my surprise, the little squatting figure, muffled in a scarlet cloak, seemed to be a familiar object, but no one knew his story or his name. All my life, I had been accustomed to seeing Daruma-sama in the shape of every toy that could be made for careless baby fingers, but I was really shocked one evening at a card party to find the little red rolling figure used as a booby prize. It is such an odd selection for a card game prize, I said to Matsuo. Why should a Daruma-sama be chosen? Not odd at all, replied Matsuo. Very appropriate. A man so well balanced that however he may fall, the next moment he is again right side up makes an excellent booby prize. It means down only for a moment, don't you see? Hello, Guardian 710. Hello, welcome. We are doing a reading stream today of a Daughter of the Samurai, chapter 21 through 24. So just come, relax, and chill and vibe with us as we continue our reading. In Japan, we always treat a Daruma-sama rather disrespectfully, but it is kind of affectionate disrespect, and my sensations as I walked home with Matsuo from the party were rather mixed. Finally, just as I reached the iron gate, I drew a long breath, and with a ridiculous feeling of loyalty and protection tugging at my heart, I surprised Matsuo by saying, I wish that either you or I won the booby prize. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome. It was an unusual thing for snow to remain on the ground longer than a few days, but Mother laughingly declared that the American gods of the weather had evidently planned a special season in order to keep me from being homesick. At any rate, more snow fell and still more, and we began to see sleighs go by, light carriage-like vehicles filled with laughing ladies in fur and white gay scarves, floating behind them as they flew by. It was like a scene from the theater, how different from the deep snows of Echiko, over which snow-booted men pulled heavy sledges, built for work, not fun, chanting as they pulled a steady rhythmic en yada ya, en yada ya. I missed the purity of Echiko's clear skies and snowy mountainsides, for it was only a few days until the cold, tainted air had stolen the fresh whiteness from our snow. But the happiness of the children was not spoiled. Daruma-sama stood on every lawn, and the streets were filled with boys throwing snowballs. One day, from my window, I saw a lively snow fight, in which a group of besingers pressed hard, a heroic few bravely dodging behind two barrels, and on a board with snow piled beneath. When the besingers called a truce and ran around the corner for reinforcements, I pushed up my window and clapped as hard as I could. Have a good one, everyone. Stay away from hot water. Don't want to be a tea bag. Bye. Thanks for stopping by, Derek. Bye. Yes. We don't want to be tea bags. The boys had a good time, but as I watched their soiled tracks in the snow and the smoky color of the balls, my mind went to Ishii's stories of snow battles held in the courtyard of the old mansion at Nagaoka during the first years of Mother's life there. In those days, life in the daimyo households of even small castle towns was based on the customs of the lords and the ladies in the court of the shogun, and in a less degree, it was as luxurious and as frivolous. Occasionally, when the winter season was late, the first snows that fell were light and dry. On the morning after such a snow had fallen, when the air was full of the cool sunshine of Echiko, and the ground white and sparkling, the men would lay aside their swords, and with their pleated skirts gracefully caught up in the sides, ran out into the big open court. Soon they would be joined by the women, their gay trains looped over their scarlet skirts, and where am I? and their long bright sleeves held back with gay cords. No one wore wooden shoes or even sandals, for that would mar the purity of the snow, but with only the white foot mitten on the feet. With bare heads and twinkling hairpins, all joined in the battle of snowballs. There was running, with laughter and merriment, and the air filled with flying and breaking balls through which could be seeing the tossing of bright sleeves and dodging blackheads powdered with snow. Our old servants often told me of those gay scenes, and Baya, the oldest of them all, would solemnly shake their head from side to side and sigh over the fact that Etsubo's enjoyment must consist only of climbing the snow hills piled in the streets, and of racing with sister on snowshoes as we went to and from school. The children of my American neighbors had no snowshoe races, but there was great excitement over coasting. Ours was a hilly suburb, and almost every lawn had at least one curving slope. But the snow was thin, and no one wanted the grass worn off or beaten down. Of course, the sidewalks were cleaned, and the streets were forbidden. The older boys had discovered a few long slopes and monopolized them, but the smaller children could only stand around and watch, unless some big brother or kind friend would occasionally take pity and give a ride. One day I saw a group of 4 or 5 little girls with 2 red sleds standing by our iron gates and looking wistfully up at the long slope of our side lawn. It would ruin the appearance of the whole place for them to be allowed to make a brown track here, I said to Mother. It is not the appearance, Etsu, Mother replied. Probably all the tracks those little folks would make would not kill the grass, but it is too dangerous. They would have to bump over 2 gravel paths and end abruptly at the top of the stone wall. The battlements are not high, and the sleds might leap over on the outside walk, 4 feet below. I should be afraid to risk it. That afternoon, as Mother and I were walking to a meeting of the ladies' club, we passed the home of Dr. Miller. His lawn was small, but it was one of the prettiest and best kept in our neighborhood. The hill began at the roadway and swept in a straight, rather steep slope, ending in a level stretch. At least a dozen children were gathered there, among them the forlorn little group with the 2 red sleds and I had seen this morning. A long, smooth track had already been worn on which every moment a sled went down, laden with a squealing, shrieking mass of hunched-up little figures. And on an uphill path besides the track, a line of rosy-cheeked, rosy-nosed, painting coasters were pulling their sleds and shouting, not for any reason at all, except that they were having the best time of any coasters in the world. I think she's calling sledding as coasting. Day after day, as long as the snow lasted, that hill was reserved for the little folks. And every child that went gliding down the smooth slide and every one that came struggling up the broken path had laughter in their eyes, happiness in their heart, and hidden somewhere within a growing germ of unselfishness, kindness, and godliness that had been planted there by the kind act of a man who could see from the viewpoint of a child. It was like my father to have done that kind deed. Afterward, I never saw Dr. Miller, even to pass him on the street, that did not look to see if behind his fine, grave, intellectual face I could not see the heart of my father. I have not seen it, but I know it is there, and that someday, on the other side of the Sanju River, those 2 beautiful souls will be friends. January brought to Matsuo and me a quiet celebration of our own. For weeks before, the letters from Japan had been coming more frequently, and occasionally the postman would hand in a package wrapped in oil paper and sealed with the oval stamp of Uncle Otani's house, or the big square one of Inagaki. One of these packages contained a thin sash of soft white cotton, each end of which had been dipped in rogue, and also 2 emblems of congratulation, baby storks of rice dough, one white and one red. There were Mother's gifts for the 5-month ceremony, a special celebration observed by expectant parents on that date. My thoughtful, loving, faraway mother. The tears came down to my eyes as I explained it all to my dear American mother, who, in a sweet understanding of the sacred ceremony, asked how to prepare everything according to Japanese custom. Oh, so she's pregnant. At this celebration, besides the husband and wife, only women members of the two families were present. The young father-to-be sits beside his wife, and the sash is passed through the sleeves of his garment from left to right. Then it is properly adjusted around the wife. From then on, she is called a lady of retirement. And her food, exercise, amusements, and readings are all of a character called education for the coming. The gay light balls of many colored silk threads, which are seen in American shops below, belong to this name. In the package with the sash was a charm card from my good Ishi. To obtain it, she had made a pilgrimage of 2 days to the temple of Kishibojin, demon of mother heart, believing sincerely that the bit of paper with its mysterious symbols would protect me from every evil. According to an ancient legend, there lived in the time of the Buddha a mother of many children who was so poor that she could not obtain food for them, and in helpless misery saw them starving. At last, her agony became so great that it changed her loving mother heart into that of a demon. Every night she roamed the country, stealing little babies, so that in some uncanny way belonging to demon lore, their nourishment might be transferred to her own children. Her name became a horror to the world. The wise Buddha, knowing that however many children a woman may have, she always loves the youngest with special tenderness, took her babe and hid it in his begging bowl. Hearing the child's voice, but not being able to trace it, the mother was wild with distress and grief. "Listen," said the merciful Buddha, restoring the infant to her arms. "You have 1,000 children, while most women have but 10. Yet you mourn bitterly for the loss of one. Think of other aching hearts with the sympathy you feel for your own." The mother, thankfully clasping her babe to her breast, saw within the tiny arms a pomegranate, and recognized it as the miracle fruit whose never withering freshness can nourish the world. Remorse and gratitude healed her heart, and she vowed to become forever a loving guardian to little children. This is why in all Kishibo temples, the goddess of the altar is a demon-faced woman surrounded by children and standing in the midst of the draperies and decorations of pomegranate. These recollections flooded my mind as I sat stitching on dainty, wee garments, into every one of which I breathed a prayer that my baby might be a boy. I wanted a son, not only because every Japanese family believes it's most desirable that the name should be carried on without adoption, but also for the selfish reason that both Matsuo's family and my own will look upon me with more pride were I the mother of a son. Neither Matsuo nor I had, to any great extent, the feeling that woman is inferior to man, which has been so common a belief among all classes in Japan. But law and customs being what they were, it was such a serious inconvenience. Yes, calamity to have no son. That congratulations always fell more readily from the lips when the firstborn was a boy. Little girls were always welcome in Japanese homes. Indeed, it was a great sorrow to have all sons and no daughter. A calamity second only to having all daughters and no son. The laws of our family system were planned in consideration for customs which themselves were based on ancient beliefs, all of which were wise and good for their time. But as the world moves on and the ages overlap each other, there come intervals when we climb haltingly, and this means martyrdom to the advanced. Nevertheless, perhaps it is wiser and kinder to the puzzled many for the advanced few to accommodate themselves somewhat to fading beliefs, instead of opposing them too bitterly, unless it should be a matter of principle, for we are climbing slowly, but climbing. Nature does not hasten, and Japanese are nature's pupils. Mother had a magic touch with flowers, and when spring came, the crimson rambler that formed a heavy brocade curtain on one side of our veranda was thick with tiny buds. One morning, I had gone to the door to see Matsuo off, and was wondering how soon the tiny roses would bloom, when I was joined by Mother. "There are hundreds of buds here," I said. "This would be a bower of rich beauty someday, but much joy we Japanese miss because of superstition. Roses do not look beautiful to us, but they have harmful thorns." "How much joy you have because of tradition," said Mother, smiling. "In the poem you taught me last fright, the sacred lotus that bravely lifts its snowy head in purity and beauty, although its roots are buried in earthly mire, holds a lesson of pride and inspiration. Have you another blossom that is teacher?" "The modest plum," I answered quickly. Excuse me. "That blossoms on snow-laden branches is a bridal flower because it teaches courage and endurance." "And how about the cherry?" asked Mother. "Oh, that has an important meaning," I replied. "The quick falling cherry that lives but a day and dies with destiny unfulfilled is the brave spirit of a samurai youth, always ready his fresh young strength to offer to his lord." "Bravo!" Mother cried, clapping her hands. "This is a real, I'll bet, a second-rate poetry contest that you and I are having. Do you know any more flower poems?" "Oh, yes. Morning glories." And I rapidly recited in Japanese. "In the dewy freshness of the morning, they smile respectfully. Greetings to the goddess of the sun. Amaterasu." "Oh, Mother, this is just like Japan, the way you and I are doing now. Japanese people often gather a group of friends and write poems. They meet at a flower viewing festival and hang poems on the flowery branches, or at a moon-gazing party where they sit in the light of the moon and make poems. There is one place where the moonlight falls on a plain of rice fields, and from the mountainside the silvery reflection can be seen in every separate field. It is wonderful, and then everybody goes home feeling quiet and peaceful, and with new thoughts." "Ah," exclaimed Mother, starting quickly towards the door, adding as she looked back over her shoulder, "Our poetry contest has given me a new thought," and she disappeared within the house. Our conversation had reminded her of a package of morning glory seeds that a friend had sent when she learned that a Japanese lady was living with her. "I had almost forgotten about them," said Mother, returning with a trowel in her hand. "These were gathered from the vines, which my friend had grown from seeds that came from Japan. She says the blossoms are wonderful, 4 and 5 inches across. Where shall we plant them? We must choose some appropriate spot for the little grand seeds of a Japanese ancestor." "I know exactly the place," I cried, delighted, and leading Mother to our old-fashioned well. I told her the legend of the maiden who went to a well to draw water, and finding a morning glory tendril twined about the handle of the bucket, went away rather than break the tender vine. Mother was pleased, and she planted the seeds around the well curb while I softly hummed over and over the old poem. "The morning glory tendrils has chained my heart. Let it be. I'll beg water of my neighbor." We watched the vines eagerly as they reached out strong arms and climbed steadily upward. Mother often said, "The coming of the blossoms and of the baby will not be far apart." One morning, I saw from my window Mother and Clara standing by the well. They were looking at the vines and talking excitedly. I hurried downstairs and across the lawn. The blossoms were open, but were pale, half-sized weaklings, not resembling at all the royal blossoms we treasure so dearly in Japan. Then I remembered having read the Japanese flowers do not like other lands, and after first year, gradually fade away. With a superstition's clutch at my heart, I thought of my selfish prayer for our son and vowed to be gratefully content with either a boy or a girl, if only the little one bore no pitiful trace of the transplanting. And then the baby came, well and sweet and strong, upholding in her perfect babyhood the traditions of both America and Japan. I forgot that I had ever wanted a son, and Matsuo, after his first glimpse of his little daughter, remembered that he had always liked girls better than boys. Whether the paper charm of Kishibojin was of value or not, my good Ishi's loving thought for me was a boon to my heart during those first weeks when I so longed for her wisdom and her love. And yet it was well that she was not with me, for she could never have fitted into our American life. The gentle, time-taking ways of the Japanese nurse, crooning to a little bundle of crepe and brocade swinging in its silken hammock on her back, would never have done for my active baby, who so soon learned to crow with delight and clutch disrespectfully at her father's head as he tossed her aloft in his strong arms. We decided to bring the baby up with all the healthful freedoms given to an American child, but we wanted her to have a Japanese name. The meaning of Matsuo's name was pine, the emblem of strength. Mine was rice fields, the emblem of usefulness. Therefore, said Matsuo, the baby is already a combination of strength and usefulness, but she must have beauty also. So let us give her the name of our kind American mother, which translated means flower. And if we use the old-fashioned termination, I cried with delight, it will mean foreign fields or strange land. Hanano, flower in a strange land, cried Matsuo, clapping his hands. Nothing could be better. Mother consented, and thus it was decided. End of chapter 21. I'm gonna mute so I can cough. Ayo. I'm gonna take a few drinks and then we will continue. Interesting story. Never heard this one. Yeah. I thought it was fitting. It's like an autobiography of a real daughter of a samurai. Her father was a samurai. And then she grew up in Japan, but she got married and moved to America. So now we're at the part where she's in America. I thought it was more interesting in the earlier chapters when we were learning how she was raised by a samurai in a Buddhist family. That was very interesting. All right, chapter 22. Flower in a strange land. Hanano, her daughter. Sing. All right. For months after the baby came, my entire life centered around that one small bit of humanity. Wherever I went, and no matter who came to see me, the conversations were sure to drift to her, and my letters to my mother held little else than the information that was a few ounces had been added to the baby's weight, or a new accent to the little cooings or gurglings, or that she had developed a dimple when she smiled. My mother must have seen the germ of a too selfish love in my devotion, for one day I received from her a set of Buddhist picture books, which had belonged to father's library. How familiar and dear they looked. There were no stories, only pictures. But as I turned the pages, I could hear again the gentle voice of honorable grandmother and see the old tales acted before my mind as plainly as the days of my childhood. Mother had marked some of the pages with a dot of vermilion. On one of these was a scene from the Mount of Spears. The story is of a favorite disciple of Buddha who grieved so bitterly over the loss of a favorite disciple of wait. Who grew so bitterly over the loss of his beloved mother that the pitying master exerted his holy power and took the sorrowing son to a place from which the mother could be seen. The disciple was horrified to behold his precious mother climbing painfully over a hilly path of sharp spears. "O good master," he cried, "you have brought me to the hell of 7 hills. Why is my mother here? She never, throughout her life, did a wicked deed." "But she had a wicked thought," sadly the Buddha replied. "When you were a baby, her only care was for you, and one day when she saw a little field mouse happily playing, she so longed to have its gray silky tail for a cord to tie your holiday coat that her wish was thought murder." I closed the book with a half smile, for I understood at once the wordless warning of my gentle, anxious mother, but my heart was full of loving gratitude as I bowed respectfully in the direction of Japan and resolved that my love for my baby should make me more thoughtful and tender toward all of the world. One of the first callers the baby had was our faithful black laundress, Minty. She had been washing for mother for years, and when I came home, she accepted the additional burden of my queer clothes with kind good nature. She had never spoken of them as being different from others, but several times I noticed her examining them with interest, especially my white foot mittens. These were made of cotton or silk, with the great toe separated, as is the thumb of the hand mitten. When she came upstairs to see the baby, the nurse was holding the little one on her lap, and Minty squatted down by her side and began talking baby talk, cooing and clucking in the most motherly fashion. Presently, she looked up. "Can I see her feet?" she asked. "Certainly," said the nurse, turning up the baby's long dress and cuddling the little pink feet in her hand. "My lossy me," cried Minty in a tone of greatest astonishment. "If that ain't just like Orn." "Of course," said the surprised nurse. "What did you think?" This lady thought that her ninja socks was how her baby's feet is. "Why, the stockings is double," said Minty, almost in a tone of awe. "And I suppose they was two-toed folks." When the nurse told my husband, she shouted with merriment and finally said, "Well, Minty has struck back for the whole European race and got even with Japan." The nurse was puzzled, but I knew very well what he meant. When I was a child, it was a general belief among the common people of Japan that Europeans had feet like horses' hooves, because they wore leather bags on their feet instead of sandals. This is why one of our old-fashioned names for foreigners was one-toed fellows. Neither mother nor I knew much about the latest theories of taking care of babies, so I rocked Hanano to sleep with a lullaby. Whether or not it was the influence of the foreign atmosphere, which is so entirely surrounded me, I do not know, but it seemed more natural for me to say, "Hush-a-bye, baby," than the old Japanese lullaby that Ishi used to croon as she swayed back and forth with me snuggled comfortably against her back. "Baby, sleep. Baby, sleep. Where has thy nurse gone? She went far away to grandmother's house. Over the hills and valleys, soon she will bring to thee fish and red rice, fish and red rice." It was not the foreign atmosphere, however, that was responsible for the prayer with which, as soon as she was old enough to lisp it, Hanano was tucked into her little bed at night. That dates back to the memory stone day when my wonderful Tales of the Western Seas came to me, and one of the thin volumes of tough paper tied with silk cord was a musical little poem that I committed to memory, all unknowing that years after I would teach it, clothed in strange foreign words to my own little child. It was, so there's the Japanese words and then the English one. So we'll read the Japanese ones first. Ware ima inentotsu, waga kami, waga tamashi, wa mamori tamae. Moshi ware mezamezu shite shinaba, shuyo waga tamashi wa sugue tamae. Kore ware shu no nani yorite negotokoro nari. And this is the English translation. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. This I ask for Jesus' sake. There is a saying in Japan, only the fingers of the babe can tie a uniting knot that will pull two families together. As the Japanese marriage is not an affair of the individuals, I had never applied the saying to Matsuo and myself. But one day, some mysterious power twisted this bit of truth into an incident that played an unsuspected and important part in my life and in that of my husband. Oh. Matsuo was a man who had always been vitally interested in his business. I think that, before the baby came, there had been nothing in his life to which it was second. He and I were very good friends, but we seldom talked freely to each other except in the presence of others. Indeed, we had no common topic of conversation, for he was interested in his own plans, and my mind was taken up with my home and my new friends. But from the day the baby came, everything was changed. Now we had many things to talk about, and for the first time I began to feel acquainted with my husband. But always, deep in my heart, was the feeling that the baby was mine. I did not trace any likeness to Matsuo, nor did I want to. I do not mean that I objected to her resembling him, but that I never thought of her as really belonging to anyone but myself and my own family. One day, when I was in the city, I stopped for a few moments at my husband's store. He happened to be busy, and I waited in the office. His desk looked to me in great disorder, and right in front, in a wide pigeonhole, was an odd thing to be in a cluttered-up office. It was a little lacquer box of exquisite workmanship and bearing a crest that is rarely seen outside a museum. I lifted the lid, and there, before my startling eyes, were three strange objects. A green paper whirligig, some little pieces of clay the baby's fingers had pressed into crude shapes, and a collapsed balloon. I stood still, my heart beating quickly. Then I turned away, feeling as if I had taken an unbidden glance into the heart of a stranger. In that moment came the realization that there was another claim on my baby, as tender and as strong as my own. And with a throb of remorse, my heart turned toward my husband with a strange new feeling. Okay, I have no idea what any of those objects meant. So let's see. Among the strong influences in Hanano's life were the frequent calls and unfailing kindness of our good friend Mrs. Wilson. She seldom came that she did not bring flowers for mother, and on Easter and family anniversaries, our parlors were bowers of bloom from her generous conservatory. One day, when Hanano was about a year old, she was sitting on mother's lap by the window when she saw the familiar carriage coming up the driveway. It stopped, and Mrs. Wilson stepped out. Glancing up and seeing the baby, she waved a white-gloved hand and smiled. The sun was shining on her stately figure, on its gown of soft heliotrope shade, with flowers in her arms. "Oh, oh!" cried the baby, joyfully clapping her hands. "Pretty flower lady! Pretty flower lady!" Thus was she cherished in my baby's heart, and Flower Lady has been for us all ever since. May the many blossoms which her generous hands have scattered far and wide bloom anew for her and in all their symbolism of happiness and excuse me, Happiness and peace, which she reaches the beautiful gardens across the river. From the time when Hanano first recognized her father as a separate individual, he brought her toys, and she was no sooner toddling about and beginning to prattle that he spent much of his leisure time in playing with her, carrying her about, and even talking to her to call on the neighbors. I still don't understand what's going on. Is it an affair or what? One Sunday afternoon, just after Matsuo had started off somewhere with her, mother said, "I have never known a more devoted father than Matsuo. Are all Japanese men as unselfish with their children?" "Why, I don't know," I replied slowly. "Aren't American men fond of their children?" "Oh, yes," she answered quickly. "But Matsuo comes home early every evening to play with Hanano, and the other day he closed his store for the entire afternoon just to take her to the zoo." Mama went back to my father and Mr. Toda and other fathers, and suddenly I saw Japanese men in a new light. They have no chance? Oh, they have no chance! I thought a little bitterly. An American man can show his feelings without shame, but convention chains a Japanese man. It pulls a mask over his face, closes his lips, and numbs his actions. However, a husband many feel towards his wife. He cannot in public show her affection or even respect, nor does she wish him to. It is not good form. The only time a man of dignity dares betray his heart is when he is with a little child, either his own or another's. Then he has the only outlet that etiquette allows, and even then he must guide his action by rule. A father becomes his little son's comrade. He wrestles with him, races with him, and acts with him senses of samurai daring. But he loves his little daughter with great tenderness and accepts her gentle caresses with a heart hunger that is such pathos and it is tragedy. Matsuo was more demonstrative to me. That would have been polite had we been living in Japan. But we both respected formality, and it was years before I realized how deep were his feelings to his family. After that remark of mother's and the thoughts that it aroused, I delayed Hanano's bedtime, and she had many a romp with her father after the hour when children are supposed to be asleep. One moonlight, even I came down and found them running around the lawn, chasing each other and dodging this and that, while mother sat on the porch laughing and applauding. They were playing Shadow Catch Shadow. "I used to play that on the moonlight nights when I was a little girl," I said. "Why, is there a moon in Japan?" asked Hanano in great surprise. "This very same one," her father replied. "Wherever you go all your life, you will see it above you in the sky." "Then it walks with me," said Hanano with satisfaction. "And when I go to Japan, God will be with me and can see my Japanese grandma." Matsuo and I glanced at each other, a little puzzled. Hanano had been associated with Man in the Moon, with the face of God, but I did not know until afterwards that she had heard a lady who was calling on Mother that afternoon express regret that beautiful Japan is a country without God. Hanano's odd idea was somewhat startling, but it was a pleasant one to her, and I did not correct it. She will learn soon enough in this practical country, I thought with a sigh. In Japan, children are saved many a puzzling heartache, for most of our people retain sympathy for childish illusions even to old age. Thus, poetic fancies are less apt to be too suddenly shattered. Daily life over there is full of mystic thought. To the masses of people, nothing in the active life about us is more real than the unseen forces which people the earth and air, and no day passes that does not bring to almost everyone some suggestion of the presence of kindly spirits. Most of the gods we look upon as friendly comrades, and the simple duties we owe them we perform with calm and pleasant feelings of gratitude and courtesy. There is little fear of penalty for neglect other than humiliation for a lack of politeness. Penalty for neglect, which weighs a good deal with the Japanese. The house shrines remind us that relatives are watching over us, and we show our appreciation with incense and prayer. The fire goddess is the helpful ruler of the kitchen, whose thanks are the slender ends of a weave of cloth hung beside the kitchen firebox. The godly god of rice asks that we keep the fire beneath the rice kettle free from rubbish. The water goddess, who blesses the streams and rivers, demand that the wells be clean. The 7 gods of fortune, industry, wealth, wisdom, strength, beauty, happiness, and long life, are seen everywhere and always greeted with a smiling welcome, and the 2 especially honored by tradesmen, industry and wealth, are perched on a prominent shelf in every store, from which their faces look down, giving the master the comfortable assurance that friends are near. The hideous gods besides temple doors are not hideous to us, for they are the fierce watchdogs who protect us from danger, and the gods of the air, thunder, wind, and rain, are guardians for our good. Above all these lesser gods, the sun goddess, ancestress of our imperial line, watches over the entire land with kindly, helpful light. These various gods are a confused mixture of Shinto and Buddhism, for the religion of the masses vaguely combines both beliefs. As a rule, this is not a religion of fear, although the evil spirits of the hells, if seriously accepted as pictured in ancient Buddhist books, are fearful indeed. But even they allow 2 days in each year when the repentant may climb to a higher plane. Thus, to the Japanese, even the sad and the puzzling path of transmigration, into which unconscious footsteps so often wander, leads at last, after the long period of helplessness and gloom, to a final hope. Buddhism, on its ages-long journey from India to Japan, seems to have dropped many of its original elements of terror, or else they were softened and lost in the goodly company of our jolly and helpful Shinto gods. Not one of these do we dread, for, in Shintoism, even death is only a floating cloud through which we pass on our journey, in the sunshine of nature's eternal life. Our man-made laws of convention had made more power in molding the lives of the people, and have left a more lasting stamp on their souls than have our gods. Our complex religion arouses the interest of the intellectual, and it teaches genuine resignation. But it does not guide the ignorant with their comprehending wisdom, nor does it give to the brooding and the sorrowful the immediate comfort of cheerfulness and hope that comes with the belief in the peasant priest of Nazareth. Oh, end of chapter 22. A lot of religion talk in that chapter. Oh ho ho ho. How are we holding up? Need some more water. The tea leaves are strong today. I hope that their stories comfort you. What are the tea leaves saying now? Doing good, just chilling with my Switch. Oh, what game? What game? Must be a cozy game. Playing the demo for... Oh, Cry Magina! No way! I've been wanting to play that too. Is it good? I'm kind of skeptical on the Switch version. Like, I think it's gonna have too many bugs. So I was planning on getting it for PS5. Wait, that's the sequel, right? The second one? Not the first one? So far, it's pretty fun and doesn't have bugs so far. Oh, okay, okay. Good, good. Because a lot of the Switch games that I've played have a lot of bugs and a lot of lag. So I'm like, should I get the PS5 version? But yeah, when you're done with the demo, let me know. Let me know what you think. Is it worth it? Let's see. Oh, we don't have much left. Yeah, lol. Sometimes the Switch version can be worse. Yep. That's why I'm contemplating getting the PS5 version. Alright. Chapter 23. Gio. Who is Gio? We'll find out. Let's see what the tea leaves are saying. Okay. After Hanano had learned that the moon was a friend she could depend upon wherever she might travel, she became intensely interested in moon stories. I postponed telling her the legend of the white rabbit, who is fated for all time to pound rice dough in a great wooden bowl, for it is his shadow which Japanese children see in every full moon, and I thought I would allow her to drift gradually from her idealization of American legend. But I told her of one of our moon-gazing parties, where families of groups of friends gather in some beautiful one spot and write poems praising the brilliant leaves of the moon vine, which causes the glow of autumn that in America is called Indian summer. Thankfully, this game seems to be doing well, though I'm guessing probably on PlayStation, it's at 60 FPS, while Switch is 30 FPS. Not sure though. Haven't seen gameplay for PlayStation. If you say it is good, I will get it to play. We were sitting on the doorstep of the back parlor one evening, looking out across the porch at the moon sailing round and clearing the cloudless sky, and I told her how in Japan, on that very night, every house from the palace of the emperor to the hut of his humblest subject would have on the porch or in the garden, where it could catch the glow of the full moon, a small table with fruits and vegetables, everything round, arranged in a certain manner in honor of the goddess of the moon. "Oh, how pretty!" cried Hanano. "I wish I could be there to see." There was the rustling of a newspaper behind us. "Etsu," called Matsuo. "There is some kind of a child's story about that celebration. I remember once when my elder sister and I had been teasing our little sister, who was a timid child, that my aunt told us a story of gentle Lady Moon and naughty rain and wind, who tried to spoil her pleasure on an August full moon night." "Oh, tell me!" cried Hanano, clapping her hands and running to her father. "I'm not much on stories," said Matsuo, taking up his paper again, "but your mother will know it. Etsu, you tell it to her." Creating work for Mama. All right. So Hanano came back to the doorstep, and I tried to recall the half-forgotten story of Lady Moon and her enemies. One pleasant evening in August, the beautiful Lady Moon was sitting in front of her toilet stand. What? What? As she lifted the powder puff to clear and soften her bright coloring, she said to herself, "I must not disappoint the earth people tonight. Of all the nights of this year, they look forward to the honorable 15th. For this is the time when my beauty is at the crown of its glory." Turning the mirror a trifle, she carefully arranged her fluffy collar. "It seems a poor sort of life to do just nothing but smile and look happy. But this is my only way to gladden the world. So tonight, I will shine my brightest and best. And, she added as she peeped over the edge of her balcony and saw the earth beneath, after all, it is a pleasant duty, especially tonight. It was no wonder she smiled with pleasure, for the whole world was decorated in her honor. Every city and town, every little village, every lonely hut on the mountainside, and every humble fisher caught on the shore had upon its porch and placed in front of where it could be seen but the eye of the Lady Moon a tiny table laden with treasure balls. There were rice dumplings, chestnuts, potatoes, persimmons, peas, and plums, and standing in their midst, 2 circular sake vases, holding stiff and upright their folded white papers. Everything had been carefully selected as being the nearest of perfect round and shape that could be obtained, for round is a symbol of perfection. And on this night, only the very best of everything was considered worthy to be shown to the pure and perfect Lady of the Sky. Mistress Rain, who lived near Lady Moon, peered through her misty windows with envious eyes. She saw the houses decorated in honor of her neighbor, and caught the breath of the messages floating upward from the lips of young girls. Great Mysterious, make my heart as pure as the moonbeams, and my life as perfect as the bright and round Lady Moon above. As Mistress Rain listened, she swished her skirts so viciously that all the umbrellas which decorated them suddenly flew open, and she had to clutch them quickly to keep the water with which they were filled from spilling over the earth. Even as it was, a shower of drops fell sparkling through the moonlight, and the earth people looked up in surprise. I haven't seen the like since last August, continued the angry Mistress Rain. Every flower vase on the earth appears to be filled with August moonflowers, and all the porches are newly polished and spread with finest cushions, so the honorable aged ones may be seated where they can behold the glory of Lady Moon. Is it not fair? There was another swish, and another shower of raindrops went sparkling through the moonlight. Just then the wind god sailed by, holding tight in his hands the ends of his bags of breezes. Mistress Rain noticed the dark scowl on his brows, and called, "Good evening, Cousin Okami-san. I am glad to see you passing this way. You look as if you are searching for unexpected work." The wind god stopped and seated himself upon a cloud, still holding tight the ends of the bag. "Earth beings are the queerest of creatures," he complained. "Lady Moon lives in the world of the sky, and so do we, yet I think only of her. She has an honorable title given to her, and not a single month of the year passes that the 15th day is not observed in her honor. Even on the 3rd day, when she climbed out of her cellar, they welcome her face as she peeps over the wall with such joy that one would think they had never expected to see her again." Yes, yes," excitedly cried Mistress Rain. "And especially this August night. They always look with anxious eyes for fear that you or I may appear, although uninvited and unwelcome." "This August night!" exclaimed the wind god with great scorn. "Yes, this very night. I'd like to show those earth creatures what I could do." "It would be such fun," said sly Mistress Rain, "to go with a rush and upset all the things displayed in honor of Lady Moon." "Oh ho ho ho!" laughed the wind god, so pleased with the idea that he loosened his hold on one of the bag, and a sudden gust of wind swept through the sky, causing consternation among the earth people. Lady Moon was quietly and calmly smiling upon the world, her mind busy with gentle and unselfish thoughts, when the wind god and Mistress Rain suddenly slipped behind the mountains and journeyed a long way so that they could come unexpectedly from the side of the sea. But Lady Moon saw them, and, sad and disappointed, she hid behind a curtain while her triumphant enemies swept on over the world. Hello, Tatterbuggins. Hello. Hello, hello. Join us as I read from you my tea leaves of story. Yo, yo, yo. Oh, it was a terrific whirl of angry wind and rain. On rushed the god, pushing his big bag before him with loosened ends, and close behind whirled Mistress Rain with a loud swish, swish, as torrents of water poured from the hundreds of wide open umbrellas on her skirts. But what disappointment was theirs. The rollicking laugh of the wind god, which had loosened for an instant his hold on the end of the bag, had been warning enough, even if the sharp-eyed earth people had not seen the clouds of mist sweeping around the mountains. Every house was prepared for the storm. The beautiful little tables had disappeared, and the wind rushes of wind and rain were met by closed wooden doors. They howled and shrieked and darted and whirled until both were exhausted. Then, with the god muttering, Mistress Rain weeping, they hurried across the valley to their homes. When all was once more quiet, the sorrowful Lady Moon lifted her head. "My pleasure is spoiled," she sighed. "The beautiful decorations of the earth houses are now hidden, and the people have closed their eyes in sleep." Suddenly, a brilliant smile appeared over her face, and she said bravely, "But I will do my duty. Even though no one sees me, I will smile my brightest and best." That's our Lady Moon. She pushed aside her curtain and looked down upon the world. Her gentle, unselfish sweetness received its reward. For all of the doors of the earth houses were open wide, and the people were gathered on the porches watching her face. When it appeared, songs of welcome floated upward. "Oh, see the beautiful Lady Moon," the voices cried. "Again she smiles upon us. And after a storm, she is always doubly beautiful, and all the world is doubly glad." Tomatoes are fruit, so that makes ketchup a smoothie. Oh? What does that make a Bloody Mary? Is that a smoothie? "That's a very moral story," said Hanano thoughtfully. "I feel kind of sorry for Mr. Wen and Mrs. Rain, but I love Lady Moon. Let us fix a table like they have in Japan. Clara will give us the things, and the moonshine is beautiful on our porch edge." Drug. So Bloody Mary is a drug. "I have something just as good," said Matsuo, starting for the stairway. "Wait a moment." He brought a small wooden box and put it on the table. It was a phonograph with records on spools of wax and with little horn attached into it, which we could talk and make records of our own voices. Matsuo was to start to Japan in a few days on a business trip, and he had selected the phonograph as a gift from my mother. But it might carry to her voice her little granddaughter. We called Mother, and all of us had quite an exciting time watching Matsuo arrange the machine. Then he took his seat before it, with Hanano on his lap, and they had a rehearsal. Not until she began to prattle away in her sweet, childish English did it dawn upon us that her puzzled grandmother would not be able to understand a word she said. Maybe. I don't like tomatoes, so I'm indifferent. I've never drank a Bloody Mary in my life. This made us realize what a little American we had in our Japanese nest, and brought directly before us one of the great problems of Japan. "If our daughter were a boy," Matsuo said at night, "we might have reason to look serious. I should not want to prepare my son to live in a country where, if capable, he would not be welcome to occupy the highest position his country has to offer its citizens. Even for our daughter, I replied. There is no permanent place in this country, nor in Japan either, with only an American education. The result of this conversation was that when Matsuo returned from Japan, he brought an entire set of school readers from kindergarten to high school, also the 5 steps of articles for the Doll Festival. This festival is ages old and educational in character. Anyone who understands it thoroughly has a nearly complete knowledge of Japanese folklore, history, customs, and ideals. Every girl has a doll festival set, and when she marries, takes it with her to her new home. The set Matsuo brought to Hanano was mine, the one which brother objected to my bringing with me to America. When the set came, we all went out to the big, light carriage house, and after William had opened the rough board box, Matsuo and he carefully lifted out the smooth, various-sized white wood boxes, each holding a doll. My eyes fell on a long, flat package wrapped in purple crepe bearing the Inagaki crest. Why, Mother has sent the Komoro Kamibina, I cried in astonishment, lifting out the package respectfully to my forehead. I thought all the Komoro dolls were gone except the 2 that you used to play with, said Mother. The Kamibina are different, said Matsuo. Yes, I said slowly. The Kamibina are different. They belong to the family. They can never be sold or given away or disposed of in any way. My mother must have had these put away for years, and now she has sent them to me. I was touched, for it brought forcibly before me the truth that I was the last of the honorable inside of the house of Inagaki. A doll festival set belonged to the daughter, the master of the house having no control over the home department. No doll festival set, however elaborate, is complete without these 2 long, odd-shaped dolls. In olden times, there were always of paper. Excuse me. Hold on. I need a cough. Where were we? Oh, later, extravagant families sometimes made them of brocade or crepe, but however rich the material, they were called paper dolls, and were always folded in the same crude shape of the primitive originals. When the set is arranged for the celebration, these dolls have no fixed place, as all the others have, but may be put anywhere except the top shelf reserved for the emperor and empress. No worries. Thank you. Reading out loud really dries the throat. The origin of the doll festivals reaches back to the crude days of Shintoism. At that time, a sinful person would seek purification by bathing in a stream. As time passed and power or riches brought independent thought, it became customary for the lazy and the luxurious to send a substitute. Still later, an inanimate sacrifice in human form was considered satisfactory, and from anything near and dear as a part of one's own self, the 2 images were made. They were tiny wooden spools, 2 cocoons, or simply shaped bunches of floss, the most valued possession of weaving villages. Even crudely cut vegetables in farming districts, there were always 2, supposed to be male and female, thus representing the entire family, both men and women members. Gradually, dolls rudely cut from paper, or a precious material in those days, came to be universally used and were called kamibina, which means paper dolls. In time, one fixed date was decided upon for universal atonement, and the first serpent day of spring was chosen, because the time of the dragon's change of skin is symbolic of the slipping from winter's darkness of sin into the light and hope of spring. That date is the one still observed. In the days of shogun power, When the emperor was considered too sacred to be seen, this festival represented an annual visit from the invisible ruler to show his personal interest in his people. Thus, it encouraged loyalty to the loved and unseen emperor. In feudal times, when, in the samurai class, a wife's duties becomes those of her absent husband, and the children were necessarily left to the care of the high-bred attendants, this festival became, in those families, the only opportunity for girls to be trained in the domestic duties, which were such an essential part of every Japanese girl's education. That was a long sentence. The lunar calendar advanced first Serpent Day to March 3D, and after Hanano's set came, we celebrated that day each year just as it is done in Japan. 5 steps were put up in the parlor and covered with red cloth. On these, we arranged the miniature emperor and empress with court ladies, musicians, and various attendants. There were also doll furniture and household implements. On the lowest steps were tiny tables with food prepared by Hanano herself, with some help from me and served by her to the playmates who were also invited to join her. And so, 3rd day of 3rd month came to be looked forward to by Hanano's little American friends, just as it has been by little Japanese girls for almost 1,000 years. One of these celebrations, when Hanano was almost 5 years old, was an especially busy day for her, as in addition to her duties as hostess, she received several telephone messages of congratulations, to which, with a feeling of great importance, she replied in person. Her happy day was made more so because her best friend, Susan, brought her little sister, a delicate-faced, golden-haired child who was just learning to walk. Hanano was a precious hostess to all, but she was especially attentive to the dainty little toddler. That night, when she was ready for her usual evening prayer, she looked up at me very seriously. "Mama, may I say to God just what I please?" she asked. "Yes, dear," I replied, but I was startled when, from the little bowed figure with clasped hands, came a sudden, "Hello, God!" I reached out my hand to check her. Then I remembered that I had always taught her to respect her father next to God, and that was the greeting she used to him. When she was too far away to be seen, I softly withdrew my hand. And then again, I was startled by the solemn little voice, whispering, "Please give me a little sister like Susan's." I was too much surprised to speak, and she went on with, "Now I lay me," to the end. As I tucked her into bed, I said, "How did you happen to ask God for a little sister, Hanano?" "That's how Susan got her sister," she replied. "She prayed for her a long time, and now she's here." What's better, coffee or tea? Tea. Tea is good. My favorite is matcha tea. Very good for you. Hello, Palmstar. I like coffee personally. Yeah, coffee is good. I drank a lot of coffee in high school and college, but that has proven to affect my body negatively. So lately I've stuck to tea. Of course, a Starbucks girl. No. I like bitter matcha too. Not like the Starbucks matcha. Although I may have been the cause of the matcha outage or shortage in the Starbucks surrounding my house. They were out of matcha for a while. That might have been my part. Did it affect your height? Maybe. No, I don't think so. No. We shall continue. Read the tea leaves. I went away a little awed, for I knew her prayer would be answered. Oh. The March festival was long past and May almost gone when one morning Hanano's father told her that she had a little sister and led her into the room where the baby was. What? She had a baby already? Hanano gazed with wide open, astonished eyes upon black-haired, pink-faced little Chiyo. Oh, so this is Chiyo. She said not a word, but walked straight down the stairs to Grandma. I didn't pray for that, she told Mother with a troubled look. I wanted a baby with yellow hair like Susan's little sister. Oh no, who's gonna tell her? Who's gonna tell her? You and your star points. Oh, I know you're jelly of my star points. I know you're jelly. Like today, I got a free drink from my star points. Oh. This girl wanted a blonde sister. Clara happened to be in the room, and with the freedom of an American servant said, "Yellow hair on a Japanese baby would be a funny sight," and burst out laughing. Mother took the child on her lap and told her how proud we all were to have 2 little Japanese girls in our home, and so brought a slow comfort to the disappointed little heart. That afternoon, Mother saw Hanano sitting in a long time very quietly in front of the big mirror that stood between the 2 front windows of the parlor. "What is it you see, dear?" Mother asked. "I suppose I'm a Japanese girl too," Hanano answered slowly. "I don't look like Susan or Alice." She winked several times very fast. Then with a choking gulp, her loyalty to blue eyes and yellow hair succumbed to loyalty to love, and she added, "But Mama is pretty. I'm going to be like her," and climbed down from the chair. Ah. No one can sound the depths of a child's thoughts, but from that day, Hanano developed an interest in Japanese things. Matsuo was fond of listening to her prattle and of playing with her, but she depended upon me for stories. And so, night after night, I would talk of our heroes and repeat to her the songs and fairy lore which had been part of my child life. Best of all, she liked to have me talk of pretty black-haired children. I always said they were pretty, who made chains of cherry blossoms or played games in the garden with a stone lantern and a curving bridge that spanned a pond set in the midst of flowers and tiny trees. I almost grew homesick as I painted these word pictures for her, or sat in the twilight singing a plaintive Japanese lullaby to the baby, while Hanano stood beside me, humming softly beneath her breath. Was this sudden love for the land she had never seen inherent hints, or for children sometimes seem to be uncannily endowed with insight, was it a premonition? One day the old familiar word ended for me, leaving me with memories, comforting ones and regretful ones, all closely wrapped in a whirl of anxious, frightened questioning, for no longer had I had a husband or my children a father. Matsuo, with the last merry word and sleepy smile, had quickly and painlessly slipped over the border into the old new country beyond our ken. Her husband died! No! And now, for my children and myself, nothing was left but farewells and a long, lonely journey. The country that had reached out so pleasantly a welcome to me, that had so willingly pardoned my ignorance and my mistakes, the country where my children were born and where I had received kindness greater than words can express. This wonderful, busy, practical country had no need of, nor did it want, anything that I could give. It had been a broad, kindly, loving home for me and mine, but a place for the present only. It held no promise of usefulness for my growing children. It had no need of my old age. And what is life if one can only learn, and of what one learns gives nothing? The past years were like a dream. From a land of misty poetic ideas, I had drifted through a puzzling tangle of practical deeds, gathering valuable thoughts that I floated easily along. And now, back to the land of mist and poesies. What was ahead of me, I wonder? End of chapter 23. 3. The last chapter is really short, like 2 pages. So we're almost done. Chapter 24. In Japan again. So I guess she's going back to Japan after her husband died to raise her children. When the weary sight of tumbling and tossing waves was past, and I was once again in Japan, I found myself in the midst of surroundings almost as strange as those I had met when I landed in America. The provinces and classes in Japan had for so many centuries held steadfast, each to its own customs, that even yet there were only occasional evidence to be seen of their slow yielding to the equalization influences of modern life. And I had gone at once to Matsuo's home in western Japan, where standards of dress and etiquette, ideals, and even idioms of speech were entirely different from those of either Nagaoka or Tokyo. We were met on our arrival by a crowd of Matsuo's relatives, all in ceremonial dress, for we had brought the sacred ashes with us, and from then until the 49 days of the ceremonies for the dead were over, I was treated as an honored messengered guest. After that, my position was very humble, for his son's widow is an unimportant person in Japan, and virtually that is what I was. Matsuo having been, until he decided to remain in America, the adopted son of Uncle Otani. I was very anxious about my little girls, for in Japan, children belong to the family, not to the parents. Hanano, on the death of her father, had become the head of our little family, but we were only a branch of the main family of which Uncle Otani was the head. So it had been taken for granted by all relatives, my own as well as Matsuo's, that the children and I would make our home with Uncle Otani. He would have made room for me in his handsome house and would have supplied me with beautiful clothes, but I should have no authority, even over my own children. Boo! Boo! This might not have been so bad under some circumstances, for Uncle Otani would have been generous in giving the children every advantage that he considered proper for them to have. But with all his kindness, and a kinder man never lived, I could not forget that he belonged to the old-fashioned merchant class that considered education beyond the grammar school undesirable for girls. The situation was difficult, for, from my humble position, I could not say a word, but I had one hope. Hanano, although legal head of our family, was a minor, and her mother, a present regent, held a certain power. Exerting this, I asked for a consultation with Uncle Otani. I explained to him that Matsuo had expressed in his will a desire that, since he had no son, his daughters should receive the liberal education that had been planned for them in America. Then I boldly asked, in Hanano's name and by the power of her father's request, that I should be allowed the privilege of guiding their studies. You go, girl! Uncle Otani was astonished at such an unheard of request, but the situation was unusual, and a family council was summoned at once. In the case of a consultation concerning a widow, it is customary for her family to be represented, and brother being unable to be present, mother sent in his place my progressive Tokyo uncle, the one who had taken so vigorously a part in our council meetings before my marriage. It was necessary for Hanano, an official head of her family, to be present, but of course she was to speak only through me. Since she had not yet learned to wear Japanese dress properly, I put on her best white dress, trimmed with lace and ruffles. I arranged everything so that it would be very loose, for it is difficult to sit quietly in Japanese fashion while wearing American clothing. And yet it is inexcusably rude at a ceremonial gathering to move, however slightly, the lower part of the body. I explained this to Hanano and told her how her grandfather, when 2 years younger than she, had held the seat of the state in the formidable political meetings before the Restoration. Honorable grandmother told me he always sat very straight and was dignified, I said, and you must be like him. Then we went to the meeting. I could not help being uneasy without the way my bold request might be received. To most of the council, I was nothing but a widowed, dependent of my daughter, a woman with advanced and peculiar notions, and they had the power, if 3 voices of council disapproved of me and my ideas, not only to refuse my request, but to separate me from my children entirely. I should be well provided for in my present home, if I choose, or elsewhere, but the children would remain with their father's people, and no law of heaven or earth was powerful enough in Japan to prevent it. Matsuo's family had no desire to do any unjust thing, nor did I suspect that they had, but they held the power. The conference, which was long, consisted of a series of polite suggestions and earnest but never excited arguments. I listened with my head bowed occasionally, but not too often, glancing toward my little anxious-eyed daughter, sitting erect and motionless in the midst of the dignified row of elders. For 2 hours she did not move. Then one poor, cramped little leg jerked, her fluffy dress spread out, and with a quick catching at her knee, she gasped, "Oh!" Not a face turned toward her, but with an anguished clutch in my throat, I bowed to the floor, saying, "I humbly pray the Honorable Council to pardon the rudeness of my foreign-trained child, and permit her to retire with me for the August Assembly." Uncle Otani, without moving, gave a grunt of assent. As I made my last bow in the sliding door and slipped back in place, my Tokyo uncle tapped his pipe carefully against the rim of the tobacco box by his side. "It is unfortunate that Oetsu-san seems a reliable woman," he said slowly, "for surely it would be a puzzling adventure for any of us to take into our family 2 rough American children with their untrained feet, their flouncy garments, and their abrupt speech." Excuse me. Whether that remark was intended to be kind or cruel, I never knew, and whether or not it had influence, I never knew. But after another hour of slow, careful, earnest, and perfectly fair discussion, the council decided that on account of Matsuo's request, combined with the fact that his widow appeared to be a trustworthy person, consent was given to a temporary trial of the experiment. Your girl did it! Your girl did it! That night, I pulled my cushions in between my children's beds, close, and crept beneath the covers, faint with relief and gratitude. Oh ho ho! Thank goodness. Thank goodness. End of chapter 24. And that's it. That's it for today. Well, we learn a lot about Japanese folklore today and customs of being a widowed mother. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, it seems like a lot of Asian cultures, like, they don't have a ton of involvement with the government to make decisions like this. They have family councils. Yeah. So family matters are handled within the family and not so much through the government. It's very much like that in the Hmong community as well. It's just very unfortunate that women don't get to speak their own. Kuro, you are the father. Am I now? But yeah, it's unfortunate that women can't speak for themselves. They have to speak through, like, an uncle or a brother. Yeah. It's very much the same across the board. Woo. But I really very much enjoy that read. I like reading about Japanese folklore and, like, superstitions. I hope everybody enjoyed that as well. It's because of generations of inequality. Yeah, it's a touchy subject because it's like, do you uphold tradition or do you like just get rid of integrity and just do whatever you want? Then again, I don't know what's going on. So her husband died, and then according to like Japanese tradition, the children are to be handed over to the husband's family to raise, and not so much because the widowed wife is like chopped liver. So she was trying to fight for her daughter's for I want to say free will, maybe, for them to be raised with education in America, and she won. She won. So we'll see how things progress next reading. I heard there's more women than men around. Is it gonna be like Wonder Woman now? Is it gonna be like Wonder Woman now? We're gonna become Amazonians. Ooh. The men chromosome is disappearing. Well, whose fault is that? Come on. You men gotta keep your Y chromosome alive. Apologize, I'm not talking much eating dinner. Oh, what are you eating? And it's okay. I appreciate you sticking around and listening to me read. It's my time to shine. What are you eating? I need to go eat dinner too. I'm so hungry. Oh, I went to a baby shower. Before this, and they made a salad. It was a very good salad, and they had mac and cheese. Hamburgers. Oh, one of my favorites. I'm very plain. I think the most I would put on a burger is like cheese and onion. No lettuce, no tomatoes, please. No bacon. What do you mean plain? Like, I don't like to put too many stuff on there. I think only recently I started adding mayo and ketchup. So it wouldn't be so dry. Yo, my throat is like, I don't know how Vtubers like play games and talk for like hours and hours. You lost your burger privilege. Never. Yes, we'll chat for like 10 more minutes. I always add bacon and lettuce. Oh no, you're not gonna like what I say next. I don't like bacon. I don't like bacon. Hey, it's my water. Remember my holy water? I was drinking my water. You're fired. I don't like bacon. Sorry. I do like pork, just not bacon. Maybe the bacon I've had is just not good. I feel like it's too salty, too crunchy. You don't like bacon? Maybe if you guys make me like good bacon, maybe I'll change my mind. I went to a friend's house once and she made me bacon, like the one where you microwave it. And it was like soggy and so salty, and I'm like, I don't like bacon if it's like this. Maybe I need to try the ones where like they like fry it. eat turkey bacon. Maybe you like it. Bacon is like the greatest gift to humanity. Oh, don't know about that. Though I don't always eat turkey bacon. Does turkey bacon taste like regular bacon? Huh? The tea leaves are telling me something. You never had turkey bacon? No. Say psych right now. I've never had turkey bacon. I've had a turkey burger. I used to hate tomatoes and onions on burgers, but lately I've been liking them. Yeah, I would never put tomatoes on my burgers. But yeah, I agree. I used to never put onions on there, but I've recently come to like onions. Unless you were a vegan. No, I'm not vegan. Being vegan is too expensive. I tried being pescatarian. It was alright. But then COVID hit. COVID hit. And I'm like, oh man, I need to eat food that can stay in the fridge for a while. So I had to go back to eating meat. I'm slowly eating tomatoes, but it ain't easy. I don't like tomatoes. Like, I think it's the interior mushy stuff. I can't get past that. But ketchup and tomato soup and pizza is okay. Because it doesn't have that gooey texture. I bet you like ketchup. Ketchup's alright. Ketchup is alright. Ketchup and then tomato soup with some grilled cheese. So good. I like Panera's grilled cheese because the cheese is so thick on there and so creamy. I only go to Panera's for that. Maybe I'll get some tomorrow. I haven't had it in a while. If you guys I should have known you ate Panera. Why? Is Panera's not good? I don't like tomatoes and onions by themselves. They need to be paired with a sandwich or burger. Yeah, I think stir-fried onion is really good. Stir-fried onion is really good. Like when it's soft. Sweet onions are good. Sweet onions are good. Panera and Starbucks, the soup ain't good. Tastes super artificial. Oh, you think so? I just like their grilled cheese because they put so much cheese. It's like a thick grilled cheese. That is so good. But yeah, if you guys see me like this at a coffee shop, would you drink? Would you drink? Cringe. But I'm glad the weekend is here. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I'm gonna sleep in tomorrow. What's cringe? Me trying to be uwu. I wasn't paying attention. I said, if you see me like this at a coffee shop, would you drink? No. How dare. How dare So cute. I'd ask for a refund. You're a liar. You're a liar. But yeah, you guys got weekend plans? I think I'm just gonna relax. Maybe edit some videos. Maybe play some cozy, comfy games. Excuse me, there's a granny in my drink. Boy, I just made your drink exceptional. Oh, question. Fries. Who has the best fries? McDonald's or Chick-fil-A? My family and I are celebrating my sister's birthday this weekend. Oh, happy early birthday! Wendy's. I haven't had Wendy's in a long time. I don't like the fries at In-N-Out Burger and Five Guys. They're the fries that are like, they remind me of hash browns. They're really thin. I don't like that. Wendy's absolutely old. Well, okay. I might have to try some Wendy's fries. But to answer your question, McDonald's. Might go get some tonight. Alright, 5 more minutes. But it's been raining here. So all I want to do is nap. I need to get stuff done. You lying? No. I'm in the mood for fries. If I buy fries and post on Twitter, what are you gonna do? You're gonna send me your $3? You're gonna send me your $3? Report the tweet for bullying. Oh, but I saw the Vshoujo announcements of a new member. Who do we think it is? I saw the wine of glass. The wine glass. The wine of glass. What the heck? Aside from my sister's birthday, not much else planned for the weekend besides trying to finish Parasite Eve and continue to work on my story. Oh, you wrote a story? What's it about? I see that too, but I'm 99% confident it's not Fox Mama. Oh, they're trying to deceive us. If it is, I'm gonna join Vshoujo too. I'm gonna quit and go join Vshoujo. The tweets aren't the same as her. What if she's just doing that to throw us off? Because I didn't think Kuro was gonna be Fox boy too. Liar. Could be. Oh, we will see. I corrected myself. I said Fox Boy. You're making up names right now. I said Fox Boy. One I'm currently working on is isekai story that follows a magician who is transported to a fantasy world after finding a magical top hat and cape. Oh. So what is this isekai world like? Did they use magic? Oh, I didn't know my bangs move. Whoa, whoa. I know my little crescent thing on my hairpin moves. Will you support Kuro? Of course. All Kuros support each other. Since you like puppies, I support all Kuros. It's essentially Full Metal Alchemist in that there's magic, but it's in the midst of an industrial revolution. So technology like firearms and coal powder tech is a thing. Oh, it sounds like it's very much like steampunk. I got you. I got what you mean. Bakuro streams super early in the morning. I think it's just early for us, but it's probably evening for him. Pretty much steampunk magical fantasy, essentially. Ooh, that's pretty cool. I like a good steampunk story. Alright guys, we hit the 2-hour mark. So I'm gonna go grab some fries. Then again, most of his audience is in Asia. Yeah. But I think he's trying to accommodate everybody by doing such long streams. But I wonder how long he can hold that up. We shall see. Alright. I'm gonna go grab some fries and some dinner. I hope you guys have a very good weekend. Oh, and next week, I'm probably just going to do one stream, the collab with Kai and Varric. I'm gonna take the rest of the week off and get some work done. Bye bye. Do you have a Discord, Kuro? Not a server. I have an account, but not a server, because I don't think I have time to have a server right now. Yeah. All right. Have a good night, guys. Have a good weekend, guys. Bye bye, guys.